All right, let's go to the breaking story that Novak Djokovic. Let's find out exactly what the very latest is. I'm delighted that Jack Anderson is with us, Professor and Director of Sports Law at the University of Melbourne. Jack, good morning to you. Good evening to you. How are you?
Yeah, good. Yeah, good. Still very warm here today. Yeah, still 27 degrees at 8:30 at night. So all good.
Okay, right. And how do you cope with that heat as a matter of interest?
Yeah, not good. Not good. But look, let's discuss.
So the news overnight was that Novak Djokovic had won his court case and was going to be immediately released. What were the specifics of that, Jack? Because that was the flash that came across the wires. So what was the reasoned decision, or maybe reasoned decision is too much asked for at this point, but what was the initial findings of the court?
Yeah, so it's been a long day here in terms of the hearing itself. The hearing was streamed live, but because of the interest in it, I think the stream crashed a few times, etc. So it took the whole day. So we all thought with this that it would all come down to the medical exemption. So that essentially Novak Djokovic would say, I got a medical exemption on the grounds that I had COVID twice before, including in December. I got a medical exemption that has been certified by Tennis Australia, that has been certified by the local government. I applied for a visa, I got a visa, and now suddenly here I am at Melbourne Airport in the early hours of the morning, and you're saying no. And we all thought it would be about this medical exemption. But actually, from what we can gather, the judge focused on a very narrow kind of procedural point, which is this all took place at the early hours of the morning in Melbourne Airport. And it's Djokovic, and there's a really fascinating transcript, Djokovic with the immigration officer, and Djokovic clearly confused. He's on his own. He says, what more can I do? At least give me time to get in contact with some of my people, some lawyers. And remember, it's early in the morning. So give me time. And eventually, it seems that the immigration authorities at about 5:30 in the morning said, we'll give you 3 hours until 8:30. And after that, then it's likely we're going to cancel your visa unless you can supply some other information. But within 45 minutes, they're back to him and saying, we'll cancel your visa. Your lawyers can't do anything for you anyway until we make a decision. And the judge says, well, you promised him 3 hours. He could have done something within those 3 hours, and you didn't give it to him. That's procedurally unfair. I think the visa cancellation was unfair and unlawful. And immediately the government authorities go, okay, we concede, and therefore he's free. Now, the twist in the tail is, and it's a developing story, is that it now, and Australian immigration law is quite complex, but it now goes to another federal minister, immigration minister, who has a total discretion and can, if you like, recancel the visa and deport Djokovic.
Wow.
And within the next hour, we're going to hear whether that's going to be done.
Right. Wow. So everybody's sitting around with bated breath. What do you think? Like, what would go into that decision? Is it purely political? Is it based on?
Look, yeah, there is a legal basis for it under the Migration Act, which is, and presumably with Djokovic, it would be the public health argument that he is a danger to public health by not being vaccinated. It's overtly political at this stage. The minister in question has said previously that players should be vaccinated. The Prime Minister today, as the case was ongoing, was saying the same thing. The only thing is to say that Djokovic is a danger to public health is a big statement. You might like that he's not vaccinated. He has received a medical exemption. Is that enough? So it's going to be really, really interesting. But in some ways, this whole thing has been quite political from the beginning. Whatever you think about Djokovic's stance, it's been quite political. In the sense that he got the medical exemption, he got a visa, he arrived, he announced it on Instagram. There was a public backlash here against the government, and suddenly when he arrived in Melbourne, they were saying no. So it's gone beyond the sport. It's always gone beyond that. It's even gone beyond law, and now it's a political decision. There's quite an amount of tension coming. all the way to Australia from Serbia, and it's interesting.
You can feel them beaming in.
With Nigel Farage up in Belgrade as well at the moment.
At present, we think Djokovic is in the central business district with his lawyers. There are fans gathering outside the lawyers, I think in the lawyers' car park as we speak. So it's been extraordinary. You know, I said earlier that this thing was streamed. The federal court streamed it, but it crashed almost straight away. There were millions trying to log on, mainly from Serbia. So it's been extraordinary.
I made the point earlier, and maybe I'm completely misreading the politics of the scenario, but the fact that the court ruled in favour of Djokovic means that the government can say, we tried to stop this man coming in, but the courts have overruled it. This extra kink in the process now, where the minister has to finally decide, can he just lean on the court and say, look, the court have said that our procedures were wrong, we're going to fix those procedures for next time and make sure this doesn't happen again, but in fairness we have to let him in. And that would actually be a massive win for the tennis tournament and for the benefit of having the best player in the world chase the record that he's chasing and all the attention. I'm wondering, is there a winner? Everybody's a winner here in some scenario where they've been seen to be hard, they've done their best, it hasn't worked out, Djokovic gets to play, and Tennis Australia is delighted.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm absolutely sure that the CEO of Tennis Australia is quite pleased at the minute, because he was coming under huge pressure on the grounds of the contradictory advice that it was claimed they were given to players about medical exemptions, etc. So, absolutely. But you've got to remember that this current federal government, there are no votes lost for them on being tough on the border issue. And Djokovic may have millions on social media, but not many of them vote for the Liberal Party in Australia. So, it was very telling that the Prime Minister held a press conference this morning. But still, when it comes down to it, the good thing about today is that, yes, ministers and the government have powers with regard to immigration, but that the courts can hold them to account. And even if the minister makes a decision in the next hour or so, it's likely that Djokovic will challenge again and make that minister come and give the reasons why they are making this decision. It's also, of course, it could be at that stage, to twist what you said, Djokovic just goes, I've made my point. The courts upheld what I said, but they're still after me. I'm just going to voluntarily leave and leave it at that. So we just don't know.
I wonder, could today mark a change in the mood in Australia as well, Jack, given, as you say there, the court has upheld the Novak Djokovic side of things, that I guess the way that the Djokovic camp have framed this is, he's being held captive in this hotel. That's a terrible place to be held captive, and that they've really tried to big up the whole victim complex around Novak Djokovic here. But then today he's got the decision from the court that if the Australian government do make this extraordinary decision to keep after him and essentially ban him from the country for 3 years, could the mood actually shift in Djokovic's favour substantially within Australia?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm not so sure about that, because so the background, I suppose, is, with the city of Melbourne itself, last year we were the most locked down city in the world, 250 days or something like that, and then we were told, get vaccinated and we won't go into lockdowns again. 90% plus of people have been vaccinated. 95 out of the top 100 seeds in the men's tennis are vaccinated. Most people would say to Djokovic, just get vaccinated. What was the problem? So I don't know whether or not it will turn sufficiently. Yes, the court has said he was dealt with unfairly. People acknowledge that, there was a mess made in the sense that a visa was granted and then last minute it seemed to be rejected for various reasons. We understand that. But generally, I'm not so sure about the public support going generally in Australia going behind Djokovic. There's something about Djokovic, even though he is a star of the Australian Open, 9 Australian Opens, etc. There's just something that's, beyond me as a sports lawyer to talk about, but there is something there. But don't underestimate the political element here of what the federal government is doing.
Yeah. Jack, always fascinating. We await with bated breath today to see what happens. Great to have you with us. Thanks a million.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Jack Anderson there giving us his thoughts, Professor and Director of Sports Law at the University of Melbourne.